Thank you for joining me on TMI Thursday. There's the climax of the show as we look at issues concerning the EDO State local government polls that is inching closely, coming on April 19. And it's expected that from yesterday through to April 6, the primaries of political parties to feed in candidates for the election would have been concluded. And of course, the campaign kicks off at April 12. Well, the election is slated for April 19. There are some who say that, well, the timetable came so rapidly, and we look at the local government council chairman, whose tenure elapsed last year, March 2021, and from that time till now, there's been great aspirations about when the conduct of the local government polls will kiss dates that we all will be happy about. And that just came up, but the rapid announcement of the timetable is an issue of discourse, and I have a civil society activist with me, and of course an array of legal practitioners that will dissect and analyze this on the show. And like I did say, starting from my immediate left, I have a civil society activist, and he is Christopher Ojekere. Thanks for joining me, Christopher.
Yeah, good morning. Yes, morning.
And next to him is a custodian of the law, Emmanuel Obakbolo. Thanks for joining me, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning.
And of course, another legal practitioner is Sunday Daudu. Thanks for joining me, Sunday.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's an aspect where it comes with mixed feelings, while others are celebrating the outcome of the timetable released by EDSEC in Edo State, but others are saying that it came so rapidly. I want your thoughts on this, Ojekere.
I don't know what we mean by rapidly, because when you said in your intro that the last local government, tenure ended a year ago. And I know that since that time there have been agitations for the government to conduct a local government election. When people speak of rapidly in such situation, it just tells me that people are not ready for the things they made so much noise about. We should be saying that the governor is just about being on time, because it's a bit late in the day. We ought to have had local government, elections in place and then done with by now, because there's no vacuum in government. But the government gave us reasons why it had to delay it till now. So what is rapid? For me, it's a bit late in the day. So I do not subscribe to those who are saying that the timetable came rapidly. The processes is what is important. If you do not omit the processes, if the regular and normal processes that an election preparation should go through is being gone through in this, then there's nothing rapid. If you have an EDSEC in place, the institution that is to conduct local government election, if you have a local government election law in place by the State House of Assembly, then participant actors and politicians should expect, to flow with the timetable that the institution brings out. So it's not rapid as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, let's test this into what you just said. Let's put it on the crucible. Now we have legal practitioners here. Starting with you, Emmanuel Obakbolo. There is the electoral law, according to the Progressives Congress, that they say the EDSEC electoral law seem to contradict that of the Electoral Act 2022. Now, under the headship of EDSEC, where we have the Justice James Oyomere, and what do you make of his headship, and also the aspect of the Electoral Act law and that of the EDSEC law just now?
First and foremost, I would want to lay a foundation with respect to local government elections in Nigeria. The first local government election in Nigeria was conducted in 1987 under the leadership of then General Ibrahim Bodamasi Babangida. And since then, we've been having this ulabalu of local government elections, how they are conducted. And relating that now to Edo State. Local governments in Edo State and not particular in Edo State have been a tussle, so to speak, political tussle. And the APC, as they claim just now or allege against EDSEC or whatever, or the state government, shows that they were there for some time. They saw all of this. In fact, the laws were even made when they were there. What did they do about it? So for me, I see it as a form of jittery. I see it as a form of trying to raise issues where they are not just now, because this is a country where people take the leadership, take the people for a ride. And now looking at the whole scenario, like I would want to agree with my co-panelist here. For me, an election that is coming after a year after the former local government administration was dissolved or came to an expiration, and then now you just bring the election like a lightning speed, and you're asking people who should come out. So that alone, you have given people more reasons to complain. And I think the APC is now taking advantage of that to make complaint. So legally, I don't think they would succeed, because even if they want to do whatever they think they can do, they will still go to the courts within Edo State, probably go to appeal. But looking at it just now, I don't think legally they have a ground. But if they are to look at the question of the notice and the timing of the election, I think commonsensically it makes sense. And one would give them excuse or excuses for what they are saying. But just now, hiding under the guise of the electoral law of Edo State, I don't think they have much to say. Okay,
the next question, which you didn't pay attention to, the headship, Yomiuri James.
Yes.
What do you make of his
he's a man of integrity.
Okay.
And to my mind, I think he would do his best possible. But we know how it works here in Nigeria. You see a system where a man of integrity will be put in the headship of a parastatal or agency, but somewhere somebody is doing the dictation for him. I do hope that that will not be the scenario here. But if it does happen, I will not be surprised, because that is how it works here.
Okay. Do you differ in these thoughts as Sunday?
Well, I totally differ from the presentations, because it's the constitutionality or the legality or otherwise of the elections that is in contention. It's not whether or not it is timeless. It is not whether or not it is in accordance with the Electoral Act, because the Electoral Act does not make provisions for local government elections. The position taken by APC is not even the position, because the Electoral Act does not make provisions for local government elections.
Okay, what does it make provisions for? Elections generally?
Elections generally, as it affects states, state CMA, state House Assembly, governors, National Assembly, that is President, Senate, and House of Representatives.
Okay, if you say that, then it means that the law is silent in that regard.
No, it's not silent.
Okay, how do you explain that?
You see, the contention of, they have a ground. The APC have a ground, but the ground is premised on a wrong argument.
Really?
A premise on wrong law. Their contention is that the electoral law of Edo State is in contradiction with the Electoral Act. That is misplaced. That is not where the issues are.
Oh.
The issues are the electoral law currently, upon which the election will be conducted, vis-a-vis the electoral guidelines of Edo State, are a contradiction and violation of the Constitution.
Okay.
That's a better ground. Because if you go to court, the question is that, does the Electoral Act make provisions for local government election? If the answer is in the negative, the Edo State government they are very well. The House of Assembly are very well. That is not the argument.
So you are giving the direction now for this case to go to court properly.
When we are in the public, okay. I'm in the public domain, and I also have a position to advise. I'm the legal advisor of Nigeria Bar Association Edo State, Benin branch. So I owe a legal obligation that when I speak here, people can contradict me by the provisions of the law. So that, of course, whatever I'm saying should be founded on law, to which I now uphold, and whatever I'm saying must also be in concern with the Constitution.
Definitely.
Now, let me tell you, sir, when you look at the entire gamut of the Constitution, it contemplates a situation whereby there should not be election that will not give the candidates, the parties, at least minimum of 30 days.
Oh, we even have that aspect of 90 days.
Yeah, we have that. That is the Electoral Act.
Okay.
But the Constitution makes a provision. If you look at the continuity of the entire provisions of the Constitution, at least minimum. That's what I said.
Minimum.
It's 90 days.
Okay.
But it gives minimum of 30 days for anybody who wants to aspire for position to be ready, to get ready for it, including political parties. Now, let me give you an instance. If I was a local government employee, or state government employs me, or I'm working with federal government, and I now want to resign, and I want to either withdraw my services temporarily, or I want to throw in the throw by resignation, mandatory resignation, the law says that I should give my employer at least 30 days notice of my intention to disagree to contest an election. Now, by the electoral law that is being passed, it's not up to 30 days notice. The notice was given on the 24th of March with the intention to conduct an election on the 19th of April. It has already run short of the time. So if I was to contest election, for instance, and I'm working with state government now, I can't contest.
But this notice wasn't 31st March.
I said 24th.
24th March.
24th to 19.
Okay.
It's less than 30 days. If the Constitution contemplates that candidates who want to vie for elections should be given minimum of 30 days to prepare, and you created a law that obviates that, it means you have breached the provisions of the Constitution. It means, of course, you have offended the rights of persons to participate in the elections, either by being contested. Because it's one way to contest, it's another way to conduct the election. Now, if you have, by your law, excluded a vast majority of persons who would have aspired, then the law has offended their rights as provided for in the Constitution. So, constitutionally, therefore, the Electoral Act, vis-a-vis the guidelines issued by ESSEC in Edo State, are a contradiction and a gross violation of the Constitution. Okay. So, it is the Constitution that the electoral law violates, not the Electoral Act, as they wish to say, because the House of Assembly of the state have the mandate to abridge, they can abridge the time because they are the one who makes the law. If they have so abridged the time from 90 days, created ordinarily by the Electoral Act, but it should not be less than 30 days. That is what they didn't. So
they can never abridge it to a point where it's less than 30 days.
That is the only contention. They can abridge it from 90 days to over 60 days, or so soon thereafter. But
they're not less than 30 days.
Less than 30 days.
And as we have it, it's less than 30 days.
That is the contention.
I'll bring the pendulum of this argument back to you. It will swing back to you. But let's swing it to OJK. Now, you are a civil society activist, and it means that whatever that has to do with protecting the norms, and the tenets of democracy, you stick to. You just heard this from the custodian of the law. What do you think?
Now, he's speaking strictly, as you have so described him, the custodian of the law. And it is my understanding of the custodians of the law in Nigeria that they are very concerned with technicalities. As civil society, I am trained to be flexible with technicalities, not outside the ambit of the law, within. But there are a few questions you might answer when you swing it back to him. One of which would be that I understand that the conduct of local government elections is strictly under the purview of the state government. And the Constitution itself empowers the House of Assembly to make laws for the conduct of local government elections. I think the Constitution, as he said, is a legal issue and to be tried in the courts. I think, as he rightly said in his introduction, the Constitution made provision for elections generally. And within that provision, there was a clause that the governor should conduct the elections for local government areas.
Yeah, but within the content of the law.
Within the content of the law. But the law did not stipulate that for the local government elections, the governor must stick to that 30 days. If not, where is the discretionary powers of ESSEC? Why then create an ESSEC? Why then create state electoral bodies? So that will be tried in the court. I'm not arguing with him, but I'm saying that as a civil society, I am looking at what I call here positive creative disruption of a system to be able to have progress going on. We don't have progress going on. We've been there for 1 year. If I'm to take that as if I'm to take that within the context of disruptiveness, I would say they already have more than 30 days. In fact, they have a year notice.
Starting from March last year.
I should expect that political parties should have been agitating from March last year that the governor should conduct local government elections, so that if the law eventually is brought to court, is that 30 days binding on the state electoral body? I don't know. Is it a general, time frame as a guide? I don't know. So that's why I say that he might have to answer that. But I know that the Constitution empowers the state governor and then the state electoral body to make laws. And that's why you have a law coming up apart from the General Electoral Act that is to guide the 2023 general election. You have an exec law guiding the local government election. Is that law supposed to be, because he has just made a very valid point, that law, the position of the APC, for instance, quoting, when I read that, even if I was not a legal politician, I was laughing. When the man was saying the mandatory 30 days. And I was saying, by logic, mandatory 90 days, it's for the entire country. So if I was going to make laws for my states to conduct an election, I might say, why should I want the 90 days that I need for 36 states? Just by logic. So what I'm saying is that I think there is some discretionary admittance by the Constitution that state electoral bodies and the governor should make a law that will guide the particular conduct of that election. That's my thinking on that issue. Yes.
Thank you. I think we also will need you, to react to this, because this happens to be, he raised an issue which is very, very valid, concerning the provision of the Constitution that empowers the governor, to bring about the conduct of local government polls. And again, your learned colleague also raised the issue of the electoral law as pertains to the local government polls not being spelled out stricto sensu in the Constitution, or how do you put the term or jargon? Now, how do you explain this? Because we seem to be bamboozled by these technicalities.
Very good. You use the proper word, technicalities. And my learned friend here is also hinging on the principle of technicalities, which even the court just now is trying to jettison, because it has seen that technicalities have made legality a laughing stock, so to speak. Now, looking at the issue on ground, I think I will want to align more with the civil society man, because that provision of the law in the Constitution, not less than 30 days, is making reference to the general elections. The same Constitution he talked about makes provision, gives the various state governments power to conduct elections.
Elections or local government
elections.
Okay.
And that is where we have problem. That's why some of us have questioned the Constitution we have just now.
So by you are saying that 30 days notice, it's not per se for local government elections.
It's not. That's the position. That's why I told you in my introduction. I said the only problem I have with EDSEC just now with regards to the local government elections in Edo State is the notice, the timing. Just like he said.
But in the provision, did the law, strictly say general elections?
Yes.
For the 30 days?
Yes. What the Constitution does, the Constitution just make a general law. The same Constitution recognizes the fact that various states should make laws with regards to local government elections. And that is why you see there is now a lacuna, so to speak, because the various states have observed that lacuna and they are taking advantage of it. That's why Edo State, you can see more than a year we are not talking of local government elections. Why is the Constitution silent with regards to the timing? Ordinarily,
although he said the Constitution is not silent.
The Constitution is silent. Ordinarily, it is expected that immediately one tenure or one administration of local government expire, there should be an election within a specific period. Did the Constitution say that? The answer is a capital no.
Well,
so
you people are the custodian of the Constitution. So of the law. So if you are saying that the Constitution does not say that, then on this part the Constitution says that, then how do we argue this point to a logical conclusion?
We are not lawmakers.
Okay.
As legal practitioners, we are not lawmakers. We only go there to do the argument of the laws, to see how the law. But the National Assembly made this law. And the various states House of Assembly also make law with regards to local government elections.
Why you interpret the laws?
The court does the interpretation.
Yes, the judiciary.
Yes. Ours is to present the facts and figures to the court. Okay. While the court evaluates the facts and figures to arrive at a decision.
Okay.
See? So looking at the whole issue now, to my mind, I do not have any problem with the conduct of this election. The only problem I have is the notice given to the various political parties in Edo State with regards to the election. That is where I have problem, because the time is indeed short for them to begin to prepare.
Okay. You agree that the time is short?
Yes, I agree that the time is short for them to prepare. I agree. And that's why I listened to one of the chairman of, I think, AAC or so, who was saying, look at the timing. And I agree absolutely with him.
Okay, if you agree that the time is short, what are your fears that could be, as a rub-off, a negative consequence on the election?
We may not have free, fair, and credible elections.
I'll come back to you. I want you to tell it from that point where he said.
I want to
and also, don't forget what Ojekere said.
I want to
wait.
Okay.
I know you understand technicalities, but I want to put it straight so that you don't dabble with it. Okay. The aspect where he made mention of the fact that the Edo State governor, is empowered by the Constitution, to conduct the polls, to bring about laws to conduct the polls. And then the aspect where he raised just now concerning the technicalities.
Well, let me state clearly that my arguments here are not based on technicalities. It's what the law says. I want to ask a rhetorical question. If any of these colleagues of ours, panelists, is working with the state government, for instance, and they want to run for an election now in the local government, can they contest? Can they give any notice that will be valid in court of law? That, look, I'm withdrawing my service, I want to run for local government election. When the notice says you must give me 30 days notice before he can participate. Can they do that?
At least 30 days notice?
Yes. Even the civil service rule. If you want to withdraw your service from government.
But I don't know how you are going to argue that out, because he made mention of the fact that is not pertaining to the local government.
No, it is. That's what I'm saying. For state governor now, you are working with state government, and you want to withdraw your service now.
Okay.
To contest election for local government, can you give notice of 14 days or 90 days to governor that you want to run for local government election? That is the question.
But the law does not strictly specify that it should be 30 days, so. According to what your learned colleagues said.
And the second aspect is 30 days minimum to any worker, even in private sector.
Okay.
You must give 30 days minimum for you to resign.
For any election?
Any election. You must give 30 days.
Okay, I have that question that I asked him. Now, did the Constitution say general elections?
It said elections. Let me also go back to you.
It did not state general elections.
It did not say general elections. It said before the elections, to which the person is contesting. It's the election you are contesting. Now let me also go to the fact that the Constitution has been observed in the breach by state governors. Does not mean that the Constitution envisages a lacuna or a period of interregnum in the local government administration. If you look at the tenor of Section 7 of the 1999 Constitution, it said elected local government council is constitutionally guaranteed. It's the Constitution that is speaking, not electoral act, not electoral law of states. Even the Constitution says that elected councils should be constitutionally guaranteed, and the Constitution does not encourage vacuum, does not create any room for vacuum. You cannot say that there was a vacuum created by the Constitution. The vacuum that is created is self-induced by governors. That is why some of us have argued that the local government administration, elections, management should not be left in the hands of government, of the state government. We have argued that. And it's part of the amendment that is now being carried out by the National Assembly. That the running of local government, the finances of local government, how local government elections are conducted, should not be left in the hands, in the wills and caprices of governors. Because they abuse the powers on grounds, of course, that they have immunity.
Okay.
Now, the Constitution guaranteed a seamless and continuous, unbroken administration in the local government.
Okay, are there incidents? Because I understand that just like as we have this defection, from one party to another, we are now having incidents where courts are really coming up with judgments against those who defect. Now, are there incidents, of this local government polls to test that aspect of the electoral law as pertaining to the local government polls? Or
in respect of defection?
No. In respect of the 30 days notice.
Yes, the 30 days notice has always been the 30 days.
Are there incidents in court where this case was?
No. There are no correct incidents in court as to where
cases of such nature were tried.
Where an SEC gives less than 30 days.
Okay, so this would be the first time that will be tested in the law court.
If you want to examine, even if you want to amend the electoral law in Edo State, I am saying you cannot amend it to violate a constitutional provision. You can amend. I consider that the State Assembly were in order when they abridged the time. But I'm saying you cannot abridge it in violation of a constitutional provision. Because the electoral act says 90 days. But the Constitution says at least 30 days for a person to be able to prepare. So if you are reducing the time frame in the State Assembly, you must put the constitutional provisions in mind. That you cannot amend the state law to violate the Constitution. They could as well amend the state law, even if the electoral act says 90 days and the state law says 30 days, they will be in order. Because, as I said earlier, the electoral act governs only elections as it affects state governments, that is House of Assembly and state governors, National Assembly and the President. That is what the electoral act provides for. The electoral law did not provide for the state elections and federal government elections.
Okay.
So the amendment was in order. But it now violates the Constitution because the Constitution says you cannot conduct election within less than 30 days.
Okay.
But this time, it's less than 30 days. The discretion exercised by governors in respect of election cannot be exercised without a concert with the law.
Okay, I think we've tested this enough before it goes to court. Because this environment here in this forum has shown that this case will go to court. Because we have different interpretation, to this. But why we allow that to settle, let's look at the fears. The APC is saying they're backing out, why they take the case to court. Now, there's this impression that the party that is in power seem to do an abracadabra that brings about 18 over 18, like in the case of Edo State, 18 local governments. Do you think that is a threat to democracy? Or J.K.?
Well, I always find it very difficult to argue fears or seeming fears or what you have described as phobias. The reason is the election should be conducted in Edo State. And EDSEC is comprised of Edo State people. For all we know, you don't even know the sympathies of those who are members of EDSEC. And then you have a law, an electoral law, and you have the law courts, where you could take your complaints to if you think that the government in power, so to speak, had run foul of its own electoral laws, or there have been travesty of justice or electoral conduct. So what is the fear? You don't begin to live in fear. What you do is that you go into the system and play, and then come out with evidence-based infractions.
Okay, but don't you agree, just like what he said, Emmanuel Bakpolo said it, also towing that same opinion with Sunday, that the notice is short, and that if they come in this way, it will bring about loss of credibility in the election. Aren't you also thinking about that as a civil society activist?
That is where we started from. The question I asked, he just said it, that the Constitution does not make provision for a vacuum that is supposed to run tenureship, where immediately you are finishing one tenure, you are beginning another. Now, should we not start by questioning APC How they have been silent for a year and are not putting pressure on the government to run a local government election.
So by that, you mean they should have been ever ready?
Exactly. We should have started with APC. Why have you been so silent for 1 year? And now the election is here and you are telling us that it is sudden and that you are backing up for it. So you were not prepared for the elections. You didn't expect an election. You accepted the system the way it is. Then you still follow the system the way it is going. The truth of the matter is that people have refused to get up, to work hard and be pragmatic. We cannot continue to have that kind of status quo. The governor has decided to conduct an election. Go into the fray. As an opposition, you ought to have been building yourself in readiness to take over from government. That's what an opposition party is. You ought to have had alternative policies and party programs, which you should have been preaching to Edo people. And now that the local government is ready to kick off, you will be more ready than even the government, because you already have your men in place and you have your policies in place. So to begin to give those kind of childish arguments, the point I have made is the processes, have they, is there a law in place? There's a law in place. Is there an ESEC in place? There's an ESEC in place. Has ESEC come out with a timetable? It has come out with a timetable. You are in this state.
Okay.
So what are you talking about?
Let's look at this position.
Yes.
You still have the floor.
Yes.
Let's look at this position. If during the meeting that they held, that ESEC held with the political party members and stakeholders,
exactly.
Was it not supposed to bring an opportunity for them to brainstorm? After all, it's not a dictatorial government. It's a government under democratic rule. Was it not supposed to be an opportunity to brainstorm and then see where positions can be shifted, in terms of dates, for instance? And the question is, even if you shift this election by 2 weeks, is it wrong?
Now, the point is this. The discretion of whether an election is feasible to be held at any particular date is solely vested on the electoral body.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
if they so do that, is it wrong?
I'm saying that it's solely vested on them. It is not in my place to question the wisdom of the electoral body. If the electoral body think that the logistic is in place, and they think that security has been taken care of, and they think that the sensitive materials are in place, the political parties cannot untwist them. Suppose the AA comes and say, okay, we are going to court. The time is too short for us. You have how many political parties? About 15 in Edo State. And each one has its own timetable. Are they ever going to conduct elections? So we have to sit down to ensure that we agree that we are going to have a free and fair elections. We cannot continue to pander to each political party's own whims and caprices. If other parties come tomorrow and say, okay, look, 2 weeks is not even enough for us. We have this to do, we have this to do. Then we postpone the election again. So it is the umpire's place. And that is why you call it independent body. To sit down and say, do we have logistics? They take full responsibility for the conduct of the election, the failure or the success. And the points they consider before they pronounce an election, to be done or not to be done, at this point. You look at the security, you look at the sensitive material, you look at the feasibility of the budget, whether it's enough for you to run it, and then you look at whether there are political parties that have registered in the state who are willing to go into the elections.
Okay.
Now, let me tell you something else also. APC posters are all over the place. They have candidates who have you been to the social media? You can't have any page to look at. You are looking at APC posters contesting for this election. So who is the APC talking? Certainly they don't have one house in this, because the APC candidates are campaigning, aspirants are campaigning for the elections. They are ready. So who is the APC saying this?
Okay, your core civil society activists, if they are to share now in this forum, it may wow you what they will say, because they may say that what you are saying concerning the rules, the laws, and not bending to favor the political parties, or the aspect of the short notice, being extended in order to favor other parties or other stakeholders. They may say this is stick to carrot approach.
Yes, because there is hardly any topic on earth that you have divergence of opinions. It depends on how people are used to doing things. I'm a man that is pragmatic. I want things done. The thing is that I cannot understand what you mean or what anybody means when you say there's a short time. You have political parties that have been in existence. You're supposed to be involved in voters' education, program building, capacity building within your political party, selling your program, and in readiness to take over government. I hope they won't be telling us by 2024 that the time is also too short, that they're not ready for the governorship election.
Okay.
You are a political party, for God's sake. What do you mean by you are not ready?
Thank you. In case you're just watching us, it's TMI Thursday, and we have this aspect of the EDO local government polls coming up April 19. And discussants with me, I have a civil society activist, Ojekere Christopher, and also Emmanuel Obakpolo and Sunday Daudu. We're not gone yet. We're still here. We're trying to ensure that the politics is not heated. But although there's a crucible here, and we don't know if the litmus test we turn red or blue, remain blue. But let's look at your thoughts, Emmanuel Obakpolo. What he just said, I believe you've been listening now. Do you agree that this aspect of the EDSEC, for instance, increasing or extending the date of election by 2 weeks will be fair enough? Do you agree?
Yes. And just to talk more on what he said, I have a question to ask. The meeting that was scheduled on the 24th, on the 28th of March, between EDSEC and the various political parties, what was the essence of the meeting? And the political party or parties that are now complaining, what was their argument? What was their contribution? What was their opinion during the meetings? They've not been able to tell us that. Are they now telling us that the meeting was just a one-side meeting where the umpire just dictated how the election should go and they all kept quiet? No.
The report showed that some of them also said that the notice was too short.
Good. Now, if that is...
And being that is, as it is, for it not to look like a stick and carrot approach, there was need, to make changes in terms of the dates.
Yeah, that is why you would agree with me that in my introduction, I also stated that the notice was short. I agree with them absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And now, if the elections is extended by 2 weeks, which I know in Nigeria it has become a norm, even when the umpires, the independent bodies that conduct election say election is for so day, you will still see
like 2 days too.
They will still announce an extension. And by the time an extension is announced, then your previous argument or grounds that you are holding has become what? A nullity. So that is why I think that all the political parties should get themselves ready for the election, even with the short notice. They should get themselves ready with the election, because it may be a ploy that, let us do it like this, and later on we will do the extension. And once that is done, even the legal ground you think you have, you can no longer go before the court, because you can only go to court after the elections.
Okay. Let's look at the task before EDSEC in conducting credible polls. Emmanuel Obakpolo was saying earlier that his fear is that the elections being rapidly done may bring about an election that may not be credible. Now, what do you think is before EDSEC as a task, irrespective of the date? Don't take us to the technicalities anymore.
Yeah.
But what do you think, irrespective of the date, is a task before EDSEC in delivering on the credible and fair process?
Thank you very much. You see, I'm a realist. I'm a realist. To conduct elections is not a child's play.
Yeah.
It involves a lot of logistics.
Yeah.
It involves a lot of, when you look at why I must speak legally, not technically.
Okay.
Why I must speak legally is that a careful perusal of the budget for Edo State. Is there a heading, a subhead for the conduct of elections in the state?
Oh, you mean the budget did not capture?
The budget allocations.
You mean the budget did not capture it?
Yes, I can tell you authoritatively. Because there were public hearings and EDSEC were not called to make a presentation in respect to what the cost will be.
And maybe the supplementary budget could capture that.
Where would it be presented? When the guideline has already been given. That's why I'm looking at the legality. I agree with them that everybody should be ever ready, political parties. I agree. What I'm saying, you see, every other thing in democracy is premised on law.
You just tossed another side of the coin.
Yeah, it's premised on law. I am afraid of whether or not whatever elections they are conducting will be consistent with the law. That is my argument. I am not saying political parties shouldn't participate or they shouldn't be ever ready. But whether or not they are ever ready whatever decisions ESSEC is taking must be in concert with the law. And if the law does not provide for it before you give a guideline, then of course we may be engaging in illegality, to say the least. Now let me tell you the danger in respect to whether or not the date is actually convenient for the purpose of conducting elections. Why admitting that I'm not a member of the ESSEC, but it must be stated categorically that it is not feasible to conduct a free and fair election within 19 days. I mentioned about logistics. I mentioned issues of the sensitive materials, talking about ballot papers and all that, which must be printed in concert with the political parties that are contesting the elections. Now, how many political parties that are in their contemplation now that are contesting the election?
Don't forget we have a dynamic governor, so all of this must have been proactively done.
Well, I will not force that. But there's what we call fetching of discretion. If you fettered your discretion, that discretion would have been deemed to have been exercised in bad faith. And so I'm mindful. I'm at home that the election should be conducted. There's no bad about that. I'm saying that the conduct of the election should have considered the provisions of the law. Now, as my colleague was trying to attempt to say, it is immaterial if you extend the elections with 2 weeks. You have already violated the Electoral Act from the timetable you gave.
It's immaterial.
It's immaterial whether you extend it. When the law envisages is at the time of grievance. What was the position of the law at the time you were aggrieved? When you go to court, what was the position, what was the status of the law at the time you were aggrieved? It's what the court considers. Whether force majeure comes in, whether there were now external circumstances that did not make you to conduct the election that day, it's immaterial.
Seriously?
Yes. It's immaterial. It is the timetable that you gave that you are bound by.
So what should be done?
What should have been done would have been
not what should have been done.
What should be done now?
Yes.
What should be done now is to ESSEC to formally now give a fresh timetable and put a caveat or a clause saying that this timetable overrides the previous timetable and not a way of extension. They should give a timetable now that will cover 30 days. And say this notice now overrides the previous.
It's interesting.
Yes, to say I'm educated, so I say I owe the obligation. The best way now to do is not by extension. It's by bringing a first timetable, and rather the first timetable issued on the 24th of March, not get you to say that this one that we are offering today now overrides, supersedes.
Would that not also attract litigation?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, sir. Because you are giving a fresh timetable, and you are also putting in it, there's a clause saying that this letter or this notice supersedes our earlier notice in respect to the timetable for the election.
Does the law provide provisions for that?
Yes, of course, it does. If you notice that, for instance, you have made an error of judgment, it's called an error of judgment. An error of judgment is that you reach a decision pi kuda.
Okay.
And now you want to correct it. You correct it by regularizing the errors that initially.
All right, thank you.
It's not by extension because you cannot put something or nothing.
Thank you, Christopher.
The other one was initially wrong.
Thank you, Daudu. Sunday Daudu. I got it correctly?
I got it correct.
All right. Yeah. I must say you are interesting, and your contribution has been laudable. But I think that is giving us another toss of a side of a coin, because this aspect he just brought in now. Do you agree?
Well, I think what he has succeeded
in 2 minutes.
Yes. Is to try ESSEC and to sentence them. He has concluded before he gets to court that all their actions are illegal and that the timetable is illegal. And that's why I say what should be done now is that they must issue a timetable. I'm not in a position to do that because that's an institution set up by law.
Yeah.
And their actions are to be tried by law as to whether they are legal or illegal.
Yeah.
To begin to presume on their guilt when they are yet to be tried in court, I think he knows the implications.
Okay, thank you.
As far as I'm concerned, there's a timetable out. Political parties should put their house in order, get their acts together, and go into the election.
Thank you. Your reaction in 1 minute to what he said.
My learned friend has not been able to tell us the period of more than a year that the previous local government administration expired, what is now the position of the law? He has not been able to tell us that.
Wow.
And also, with the extension, if there is an extension, would there also be a need for a caveat on that extension? And if there is a caveat on the extension, is it legal or illegal?
You are facilitating another throwback.
So the issue is this: the law itself,
okay,
is where we have the lacuna.
Okay, okay.
So
I think
it's an interesting subject that when it gets to court, we shall hear the verdict of the court.
Thank you. He said you didn't give an explanation as per that.
Just
so
say that.
you have 30 seconds.
You cannot do extension on illegality. If the electoral guideline you gave is illegal, you can't extend it. So you cannot give an extension. The extension will not cure the illegality.
All right.
What you should do is to issue a fresh notice that will supersede the earlier notice. You
said that. You said that. You said that.
That is the
but from March last year till now,
I said it was the governors observe the provisions of Section 7 in the breach.
Okay.
On grounds that they are covered by military. You can't even go to court against them.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Big thanks, Christopher Ojokere. Big thanks, Emmanuel Abakolo. And big thanks, Sunday Daudu. Well, there's about we can take, I'm afraid, but a lot still needs to be discussed, and we may have more forum to discuss this. It's the TMI. Do stay.